If you are an established epoxy contractor doing consistent volume, meaning Google leads are coming in, Facebook is running, you are landing referrals from past jobs, and you still feel like growth is harder than it should be, this video is for you. It's not for people who are just starting out, not for epoxy contractors doing their first few jobs and trying to figure out pricing. This is for operators who already have demand and are still leaving money on the table and who know it but can't quite put their finger on where that leak actually is. I want to show you something today that most people in this industry will never tell you because it's an indictment of what they sell you: leads, right? The thing is that you probably already have enough leads. What's the real problem? Here's what I find when I pull up a new client's pipeline for the first time. For context, they usually are working with a marketing agency, which is separate from my company. There are leads coming in there, real leads, people who called, filled out a form, sent a message. Some of them are recent, some of them are 2 or 3 weeks old. And when I start tracing what happened to each one, when the first contact attempt was made, how many follow up touch points happened after the estimate got sent, whether the quote ever got a second look or not, the picture that emerges is almost always the same. The business has demand, leads are coming in, like I said. And if they are quality or not, it's a valid question. But what metrics are we using to gauge that? The problem is that the business does not have the infrastructure in their business to convert those leads into revenue consistently at a consistent rate. And here's the question I want you to sit with for a second before we go any further. Right now, without opening your phone or your CRM or your email, can you tell me how many leads came into your business in the last 30 days? Not a guess, exactly how many leads, and how many of them received a contact attempt within 5 minutes of arriving into your system? Just take a moment with that, because most epoxy contractors I work with cannot answer that question because the information does not exist in their business in any usable form. And if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and you certainly cannot fix it. So, where are the 5 places that we see revenue leaking in epoxy businesses? These are the 5 spots where we see guys losing book jobs that have nothing to do with lead volume, nothing to do with ad spend. I want to walk through each one because chances are high that at least 2 or 3 of these are happening in your business right now, this week, while you're watching this video. So the first one is when the leads are coming in, and this deals with how fast you get to those leads. We call that speed to lead. And the research on this is consistent across every industry and is particularly brutal in the home services spaces. When a homeowner submits a lead for a concrete coating project, they typically contact 2 or 4 contractors, 2 to 4 contractors. The one who responds first, not necessarily the best one, not necessarily the cheapest, the one who responds first books the estimate at a dramatically higher rate than everyone else who follows after that. And the window to contact them is not an hour, it's not 30 minutes. The data puts that meaningful threshold at 5 minutes or less. After 5 minutes, your contact rate starts dropping. After an hour, it has dropped significantly. After 4 hours, you're essentially following up on a lead that has already had a real conversation with a different business. So here's the question I want you to think about honestly with this: what is your average response time right now with new leads that come in, including leads that come in on a Thursday at 2 p.m. when you're on a job, and even leads that come in on a Saturday at 7 p.m. when you're at your kid's game? Because the response time that matters is not your best response time. It is your average response time across every lead, every hour of the day, every day of the week. And for most epoxy contractors, that number is somewhere between 2 to 6 hours. And every hour in that window is costing them jobs that they never even knew that they were losing. And then let's say that you do talk to that lead. That's where the second lead comes in, is actually qualifying that lead. This one is less obvious, but the cost is just as real. When a lead comes in and gets booked straight to an on-site estimate without any qualification, you are filling your calendar with a mix of genuine opportunities and time wasters in proportions that you have no control over. I'm talking about the estimate where you drive 45 minutes to look at a surface you don't even work with, or the one where the decision maker was not home. The one where the homeowner opens with, "I just want to get an idea of pricing," before you've even said a single word, which tells you that they're just shopping around and they probably have no intention of making a decision today. Every one of those visits costs you 2 to 3 hours, including drive time. And it costs you a production slot that a qualified job could have filled. And it costs you the mental energy of an estimate that was never even going to close. A qualification script running before any estimate gets booked, asking about the surface type, square footage, the timeline to get the job done, the budget range, who's going to be at the estimate. Those kind of questions filter those opportunities before anyone even drives out anywhere. The leads that do not qualify, they just get a polite response and declined. We just don't go. The leads that do qualify, they get a booking link and your calendar fills up with jobs that have a real reason to close, which leads us to the third leak, which is on-site closing. This is the leak that costs the most per instance that it occurs, and it is the easiest to identify once you know what you're looking for. Here's the question. When you finish an on-site estimate and you're done measuring, what percentage of the time do you leave with a signed agreement versus leaving with a promise to send a quote later? Because the moment that you walk off of a job site without a decision, your probability of closing that job drops significantly. And the customer, think about it, they're standing in their garage right now, looking at the problem, standing there with you. They're emotionally engaged with the solution that you just described to them. That is your highest leverage moment in the entire sales process. And most guys I talk to are walking away from it to go send a PDF, to go send them an email later. And once you leave, the urgency evaporates. They're going to go and get two more quotes. They're going to talk to their spouse. They forgot why the metallic system that you described felt like exactly what they wanted. And then your quote sits in an inbox competing with two others and a general feeling of maybe we'll wait until spring. Presenting the price on site, handling the objections in the room while the customer is still present with you, and closing before you leave the driveway is the single highest ROI behavior change that most epoxy contractors I talk to, whether we work together or not, that you guys can make without spending a single dollar on new leads. You'll make a lot more money just closing on site. Now, if you don't close on site, that leads to the next leak in the business, right? Which is quote follow up. Even for the jobs where you do send a quote after the visit, the follow up process in most contractor businesses is essentially non existent as a system. And that's a huge problem if you're not closing on site and then you're leaning on follow up and you don't even have a system to follow up. That's terrible. Just think about it. A quote goes out. Maybe a follow up call happens the next day, next week. If no one picks up, the file goes into a mental holding pattern that eventually just becomes quiet abandonment. The contractor moves on to the next estimate because think about it, there's always a next estimate, right? And that job that you quoted just sits in silence until either the reaches out or it's just forgotten about entirely. And here's what those numbers actually look like. In a typical established contractor pipeline, somewhere between 40 and 60% of sent quotes receive zero follow-up touch points after that quote gets sent out. Zero. And this is data. This isn't me making stuff up. This is from working with epoxy contractors and from hard data that, people way smarter than probably all of us watching this or listening to this, myself included, have done the research and they track this. And once people send a quote, zero follow up, not one text, not one call, not one email, once the quote gets sent out. And in the epoxy world, at $3,000 per job on average. And when you consider a realistic close rate improvement from applying an automated follow-up system to your business, that silence of not following up with those quotes is costing the average epoxy contractor that's getting 40 leads a month approximately $10,000 a month every single month, if not more. That's 120K per year in quotes that already went out to leads who are already interested enough to let you come into their home, and then that nobody in the business is following up on because there was never a system built to do it, right? Which leads into the next leak, obviously, which is pipeline control. And the fifth leak, this is the one that makes all the other ones worse. It's the absence of having any type of structure for managing your sales pipeline actively rather than reactively. Most contractors handle pipeline management the way that they handle most administrative work. It just is when they get to it, when they remember it, or when something urgent enough forces their attention into the administrative work or into their pipeline. Let's say you stop getting leads. Well, now all of a sudden you want to look at what's happening. That's horrible. That's a bad place to be. I mean, you need to look and check your pipeline and, make money, but you shouldn't be doing it reactively. Like this thing happened, we don't have enough work, so now I need to look. You need to be looking every single day. You need to actually set up time in your day that you protect where it's non-negotiable, just a daily block of time, like whether that's an hour a day, whether that's two different blocks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. But you need to set up blocks to review new leads, to send out estimates and quotes that got accepted. The amount of guys I see when we start working together get quotes accepted, the customer is ready to pay, and they aren't invoicing the leads is kind of crazy, but it's because you guys are on installs and nobody is scheduling and putting time on their calendar to do that, right? There's no systematic check on when the quotes are getting too old, right, and they're not responding. And there's no automated system for sending out review requests or to collect referrals from the jobs that they're completing, which is crazy to think about. And the result of that is a pipeline that moves just when the owner gets involved and starts pushing things around. And it stops whenever he's too busy, when he's on the floors doing installs and everything, which means that the pipeline's most productive during slow periods when there's actually time to manage the pipeline, but it's a slow period, right? Like the winter time. Now you can manage your pipeline because you're not so busy, but there's no jobs to do. And then it's the least productive during the busy periods when there is the most opportunity for us to make money. That's like it's a busy season, but you're too busy to even check the pipeline. And that's backwards from how a well-run operation should actually work. So none of these 5 leaks, though, I just want to stop really quick for a second. None of these 5 leaks are about the quality of your work. They are not about your pricing, your crew, your reputation in the market. They are about the infrastructure or the absence of infrastructure that exists between a lead raising their hand to talk to your business and a job actually being booked and completed with that same lead. And here's the thing that makes this specific problem so expensive and so easy to overlook at the same time. The revenue that you see leaking through these 5 gaps, it never actually shows up anywhere as a loss. It doesn't trigger an alert. It does not appear on your profit and loss statements as a line item called missed opportunities, costing your business money. It doesn't show up like that. It just quietly never arrives. The money never shows up because we didn't close them week after week. While you work harder and trying to figure out why your growth feels so much harder than it should. The epoxy contractors I work with who fix these 5 gaps, they consistently report the exact same thing. Not that they're just getting more leads, right? They already had the leads coming in, like I said, from their marketing agency or whatever, but that those leads they were already getting is starting to turn into revenue at a rate that actually reflects what their business is capable of producing. So what do we do with all this? I built a diagnostic tool that is specific for the epoxy space, and it maps out exactly where these 5 gaps are in your business. It's just 15 questions across the same 5 categories we just walked through. And you answer them honestly based on how your business actually runs. And then you get a category by category score, and you'll get to see a specific monthly cost estimate for every gap that is flagged. It takes about 4 minutes, if that, to even answer the questions. And there's no pitch on the other side. You just take it, you see your results, and you walk away with a clear picture of which leak is costing you the most money right now in your business. I'm going to leave the link in the description or pinned in the comments. And if the results make you want to talk about what the fix would actually look like in your specific business, when you do get to the end results, there's a button to book a 30-minute strategy call. That call is free. There's no pressure, no obligation. If there's nothing that I can do for you in your business, I will tell you that directly, 100%. The link is right here on the screen. And yeah, thank you guys. Like, I hope to speak to you soon, and I'll see you on the next one.